Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Inner Conquest, the world's greatest modern metaphysics channel. I'm your host, Jacob Edens, and today we are going to be discussing a very interesting topic. Is reality an illusion? Ooh, crazy stuff. What are we going to talk about in this one? So, when we talk about reality being an illusion, what we want to understand is what is reality, okay? And are we inexorably tied to what reality is, right? Is reality something that we are a participant in? Are we creating reality? Does reality dictate our consciousness? Does our consciousness dictate reality? Is reality serious? Is it a game? What is the essence of the term reality? So when we look at reality, we want to understand that reality is essentially what we are aware of, right? So when we think of consciousness, another word for consciousness is just awareness. So you cannot experience a reality that you are not aware of. So meaning that anything that is in your reality has to first come into your reality through what you would call an agreement. And an agreement with consciousness is a placement of awareness upon a particular sector of reality. So if my reality is impoverished, then that would imply that I have thoughts, feelings, emotions, and an awareness of an external reality that is impoverished, right? I couldn't experience a reality without thoughts, emotions, and a placement of awareness. So when we look at reality as an illusion, what we want to understand is that in many times we look at reality as fixed, meaning that the reality is immovable, it's already there, there's nothing that can be done, it's already been created, right? But what we want to understand is that reality is always changing. Just like a river is constantly flowing, or every single day that you wake up, there are different dynamics, circumstances, places, events, people, etc., that you're going to interact and engage with. So reality in of itself is always changing. So when we look at reality as an illusion, oftentimes what we're looking at is people making a judgment that the reality external to them cannot be changed per a condition, right? So when you live a what is called conditional life, where I can't do this because of this, or I can do this because of this, what you're essentially saying and agreeing to through placement of your awareness is that this is a circumstance that I have deemed immovable and unchangeable. But the thing is that that is a thing that you have casted your judgment upon, right? So that's why you look at things like scripture and they're like, don't judge, because it essentially freeze frames that sector of reality for your awareness. And you, even though you see it moving, you're saying, nope, still like this, nope, still like this. Like if somebody wrongs you and you say, no, that's a bad person, right? You're judging that person as a bad person, where in actuality, they may have done something completely immoral and wrong in what they've done, not condoning any of that behavior. But your judgment of that affixes that sector and that version of that person to essentially show up in your reality like that over and over and over again. So understanding reality as an illusion is not saying that reality is not real. It's just saying that anything that you consent to and or accept as true and as finalized is going to play itself out in your reality as that. I'm always going to be this way. I'm always going to be this thing. So understanding reality as an illusion allows you to break the spell of essentially not understanding your own ability to influence the reality at large. Reality can only dominate you if you have a self-concept and a perception that you have no influence over it. So this brings you back to the question, does consciousness dictate reality, or does reality dictate consciousness? So if you look at things like law of assumption, law of attraction, etc., you can go down the rabbit hole, law of vibration, law of reversibility. There's a million different laws that you can place your awareness on and accept and consent to be true and execute and get results with. But you want to understand that all of those are essentially done through your awareness and acceptance that they will work. So if you watch different content in terms of metaphysics, gamification, health and fitness, all of the stuff that I like to talk about on this channel, you'll understand that essentially what you're doing is you're bringing things into your awareness, and the external reality is going to mirror whatever that internal thing is. A good example of this is when an architect builds a house. So if an architect sees a house in his mind, he works out all the details, he goes, this, and this. He's like, this is the house we're building. I see it on the hill. This is this. There's no external physical house, right? There's no third dimensional house that you can go walk into right now. But in his mind, he sees the house and he has an agreement that this is going to be built. Doesn't matter. We're going to find people to pay for it. Doesn't matter. We're going to build this thing, right? It's in his mind, right? So it's not a physical external reality as of now. So when you understand that you have the ability to influence reality through that internal mental dynamic that is going on within you, what Neville Goddard would refer to as your inner man or your inner woman, right? If you understand that you have mental faculties that supersede your five natural senses, you can also make the application, or you can also draw the conclusion that those have some correlative affect to your external world. That's why people do things like affirmations, right? Why do you do an affirmation? Well, because what an affirmation is an acceptance of a seen internal reality over the external evidence of an outward reality. Because if we understand that the internal reality has the ability to affect and or create the external reality, what we can then begin to do is have a better management system of our internal processes. That's why athletes invest so much money into what you would consider mindset, right? So when you think of your mind, what is your mind? It's a regulation and flow of energy and information into your awareness. So your mind can have thoughts, it can have emotions, it can have mental movies, it can have third dimensional things that you can move around like a Rubik's Cube in your mind. It's a screen of space that is internal in what's called a higher dimension of reality. So what you would consider a lower dimension of reality is this reality. It's a third dimensional reality. It's a more limited, physicalized reality. Now, if you go into a higher dimension of reality, it's more malleable. In the way that this cup right here is filled with element salt water, if I put it into my mind, I can fill it with coffee, then I can change it to Coca-Cola, then I can change it to Sprite, then I can change it to that, and I can even give myself the internal experience of drinking that in my mind, and I can actually sense what it would taste like in my mind, which is what is called your inner man or your inner woman. So understanding that essentially is what you could call your real eternal body allows you to understand that the reality construct outside of you is a mirror of that internal reality. So understanding that internal reality as your real reality, because essentially what that is you're always aware and there's always stuff going on. So if you understand that that's your real self is the internal being that's inside a body, then what you can understand is that this reality is a temporal experience. 100% of our bodies are going to go in the ground, right? But that doesn't mean that we're going to die, right? What that means is that we essentially are in a situation or a simulation and or a game, right? And understanding that really takes a lot of the importance level off of the game. Because part of this game is that if you forget that you're in a game and you don't remember that you came into a game, you're going to take this extremely seriously, and it's going to be life or death. And when you die, that's it. There's no do-over, so you got to get it right now. So from one perspective, it's a very entertaining game because it makes you play all out, right? But from another perspective, it can cause massive amounts of suffering because if you have that lack of context that it really is a reality in which you are participating in that is holographic in nature and that it mirrors that internal reality, first off, you won't have the assumptive control to change circumstances. Because if you understand that principle, you understand something like law of assumption. What I assume hardens into facts means the same way that an architect holds the frame of a house as if it's already built, the external world will essentially go down what Neville would call a bridge of incidents to coordinate and manipulate itself into the realization of that end state, that end product. So understanding your internal locus of focus, your ability to selectively choose or deny or whatever, you always have the ability to agree or disagree with a sector of reality, means that you now have the absolute authority in your life to dictate circumstances. Now, in this particular reality, there is a element of a circus, right? So if you're in a higher dimension of reality, say you're in like a lucid dream, right? And you're physically, you have one of those crazy lucid dreams where you're like, oh my God, I'm in a dream, what's happening? And you're like, I want an apple. And then you have an apple in your hand immediately in the lucid dream. You're like, that's pretty cool. When you come to this place, remember, because your mind is at a higher dimension. It's the same consciousness, the same awareness, but different dimensions of space and time. So when you come into a physical third dimension, you go, I have an apple. Where's the apple? Well, the apple's not here. Well, part of the mechanics of this place in which it makes it an illusion is the second you put that mental state in the same way, the second that architect says this house is done, the universe is moving around to essentially modulate itself to bring that to its realization and fulfillment, okay? But this place doesn't show you that fulfillment immediately. So what this place does, like I have an apple, I'm someone who has an apple, you're affirming that all day, every day, right? Forget about it, you go to sleep, you go to Starbucks, you're getting a coffee, you're doing this, and then you go into your bag, you look, and it's like, oh, they gave me an extra thing, and it's the apple that you had in your hand mentally. Right? So you went down a bridge of incidents, but did you have the apple when the apple actually came into the bag through circumstance? No, you had the apple the second that you had it in that fourth dimensional higher mental plane. But in this place, because we're here for an experience in the same way that you would want to experience a movie or a video game, right? The journey is kind of the fun part. You get to see all these different things happening out of left field. You get to actually have a more interesting experience of what you would call manifestation, which is unseen to seen. You get to go through a little thing and you get to be surprised. You're like, oh, I had this apple. That's so cool how this lady accidentally put it in my bag, right? But if you're asleep to that, you'll go, hey, ma'am, you gave me an apple. This is wrong. This is wrong. But you had the apple in your hand and you were the causative first principle. Okay, so understanding that allows you to dictate your universe and circumstances around you with knowing in gnosis that the external world is going to move and manipulate to bring the realization and fulfillment of that state in ways that you don't expect, just to surprise and delight you. So I know you guys enjoyed this video. If you'd like more videos that you want to see topics on, feel free to leave ideas in the comments section, as well as any questions you have. Additionally, the link tree has all of my coaching. So if you guys want one-on-one coaching, you want to do one of my protocols, the Modern Metaphysics Protocol or the Spartan 1 Protocol, check the PDF out about that. Feel free to email me about it. Or if you'd like to purchase that, you can do that on the link tree. More important than any of that, go conquer, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.